President Trump in the requisite bomber jacket, speaking to troops in Japan, not naming names, but firing off a warning shot to any dictator who may want to underestimate America's powers. Don't do it. It was a message there. Riley Walters is a research associate at the Heritage Foundation, conservative public policy think tank. He joins us from Arlington, Virginia. Riley, thank you very much for joining us on the program. What's at stake for the president with his two-day stop in Japan? I mean, he's already established the friendship with the Japanese Prime Minister. Beyond that, what will we see follow?
I mean, certainly just like in Japan and all the other countries he'll be visiting, North Korea will be at the top of the list. We've seen some move in economic cooperation between Prime Minister Abe and Trump setting up the U.S.-Japan economic dialogue earlier this year, and so I believe that though will take a backseat to, of course, North Korea.
Right. There was one phone call where Trump was apparently joking, but asked Shinzo Abe, you know, when North Korea shoots those things and they fly over you, why don't you just shoot them down? Without seeming to realize that there was a, there was a potential policy shift in that quip there. What do you think? What do you think is going through the mind of the president right now? Is he for this constitutional reform? He seems to be for Japan arming itself and being able to come to the defense of allies.
Certainly, I think both, President Trump and Prime Minister Abe are interested in building the capabilities of the self-defense force, increasing Japan's military might in the region, not necessarily for, a re-emergence of aggression from the Japanese, but certainly to counteract the growing aggression from North Korea. Trump, I think, perhaps is more interested in the capacity building that Japan can offer, less so than the constitutional reform. Prime Minister Abe, though, of course, this has been his pet project since coming back into office several years ago. The problem is that he still faces a lot of domestic opposition to constitutional reform.
Mm-hmm. Riley, do you think that the president is he maybe aiming his energy at the wrong place, by talking to Shinzo Abe too much? I mean, he has pressed Xi Jinping on the North Korea issue and says he'll continue to do so. But even the president has said, apparently China does not have that influence over North Korea, but he thanks him for trying anyway. So is he expecting too much, or does he put too much stock in Abe's ability to help him?
I think one of the most important takeaways, perhaps, from his trip to Japan, and Japan being the first on his trip to Asia, is signaling the importance of the U.S.-Japan alliance. It's, Trump and Shinzo make alliance great again. It's, these two countries leading sort of both the strategic peacefulness in the region. I don't necessarily see it as a waste of time, perhaps, if that's what you were alluding to. Certainly there are limits to what the Chinese leader can actually provide, and that'll definitely be hashed out when he visits later this week.
Is there going to be any quid pro quo on trade, Riley? I mean, Abe would love to see the U.S. back in the TPP, but, the first thing that Trump did was yank the U.S. out of it. The certification is still, I guess, alive and kicking, so there's a bit of a window there. Do you see Trump maybe capitulating at all and maybe going back quietly?
Not so much on TPP. Certainly, Vice President Pence has been more forward on establishing the bilateral trade agreement with Japan. The Japanese, of course, hesitant in attempts to bring the U.S. back in the TPP-11. What I think might perhaps come either from this or future U.S.-Japan economic dialogues is slow movements toward greater liberalization, market access, maybe not necessarily within the confines of a formal agreement. I think, though, the president should, of course, encourage Japan to continue pursuing its free trade agreements, such as the TPP-11 or the recent Japan-EU free trade agreement.
Riley, thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much. I know it's late. Thanks for being here. Riley Walters, Heritage Foundation, joining us from Virginia. Right ahead, another 10 cents.